Which ball player served the longest during World War II? The answer is one of the three great first basemen of the 1930s. He served 47 months and was the first major leaguer to join the armed forces. He is Hank Greenberg, nicknamed the Hebrew Hammer, and Hankus Pankus. Henry Benjamin Greenberg was born on January 1, 1911, in Manhattan, New York. He attended the James Monroe High School, where he became an outstanding all-around athlete. In school, he preferred baseball, but he was most successful in another sport. His above-average height and skills helped the high school team win the city basketball championship. In 1929, the Yankees recruited him, but he declined. He wanted to be a first baseman, but the Yankees already had Lou Gehrig. Instead, he went to New York University on an athletic scholarship. After his freshman year, he signed with the Detroit Tigers. In 1930, he appeared in one major league game but otherwise spent the next 3 years in the minors. In his final year, he hit 39 home runs with 131 RBIs to win the MVP award and lead the Beaumont Exporters to the Texas League title. He played his first full season in 1933 for the Tigers, batting .301 with 12 home runs and 85 RBIs. The following season, he helped lead the Tigers to the World Series. He batted .339 with 26 home runs and 139 RBIs. He also hit 63 doubles, the fourth highest season total of all time. That year, Greenberg was involved in a controversy involving his Jewish faith. It was late in September, and the Tigers were trying to secure the pennant against the second-place Yankees. That September, he originally announced that he wouldn't play on both Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. He eventually agreed to play on Rosh Hashanah, but not on Yom Kippur. Much of both the press and fans weren't happy with his decision, especially since the Tigers lost to the Yankees on Yom Kippur. Eventually, the Tigers held on to win the 1934 AL pennant, but lost in a classic 7-game series against the legendary Gas House Gang of the St. Louis Cardinals. In 1935, Greenberg became the first unanimous MVP winner in Major League history. He batted .328 and led the league with 36 home runs and 168 RBIs. The following season, Jake Powell of the Yankees allegedly spiked him and broke his wrist. As a result, Greenberg only played 12 games that season. Powell claimed it was an accident. But in a later interview, he proudly declared his racism and said he kept fit by beating blacks over the head using his baton. Greenberg had a spectacular return in 1937 with 40 home runs and a .337 batting average. He also had 184 RBIs, the third highest total of all time. He placed third in the MVP voting behind teammate Charlie Gehringer and Joe DiMaggio of the Yankees. The following year, he batted .315 with 147 RBIs. He also led the league with 58 home runs to deprive Jimmy Fox of the Triple Crown. Greenberg's 58 home runs tied Fox's 1932 total. It was the closest anyone would come to Ruth's record of 60 until Maris in 1961. In 1938, Greenberg set a major league record that still stands today, the most home runs in a player's home park with 39. 2 years later, in 1940, he moved to left field and became the first player to win the MVP at different positions. He also won 2/3 of the Triple Crown with 41 home runs and 150 RBIs. He batted .340, good for fifth in the league. The following year, after playing just 19 games, he was inducted into the Army. He was discharged in December 1941, but immediately re-enlisted after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Greenberg became the first major league player to do so. Greenberg graduated from officer training school and was a first lieutenant in the Air Corps. He was later promoted to captain. Upon his discharge, he had served 47 months, the longest of any major leaguer. Greenberg returned to baseball in 1945 and played 78 games. He helped lead the Tigers to another AL pennant and victory over the Cubs in the World Series. In 1946, he led the league with 44 home runs and 127 RBIs, but his average dipped to .277, the first time he batted lower than .300 in a full season. After a lengthy contract dispute in 1947, the Tigers sold his contract to the Pittsburgh Pirates. He batted just .249 with 25 home runs and 74 RBIs. He would retire at the end of the season. Greenberg played just 9 full seasons and parts of 4. He had a 55.5 WAR, a .313 batting average, 331 home runs, 1,274 RBIs, a .412 on base percentage, and a .605 slugging average. He also had more walks than strikeouts, 852 to 844. But Greenberg's impact on the game goes beyond his stats. In 1947, when Jackie Robinson entered the league, he was one of the few players to openly support him. One reason is that Greenberg, being a Jew, was also a victim of racism and anti-Semitism. It is said that probably only Robinson and AL pioneer Larry Doby suffered more racism than he did. As the first Jewish baseball superstar, he regularly suffered anti-Jewish insults from the opposing teams. Unlike Doby and Robinson, however, Greenberg fought back, though there were no records of physical violence. He once rushed to an opposing team's manager to challenge him to a fight. In a game against the Yankees where he suffered insults, he called out the team and dared the perpetrator to reveal himself. No one came out. In 1947, Greenberg retired as a player and joined the Indians as the farm director. During his tenure as a front office executive, he sponsored more African-American players than anyone. But his record wasn't perfect. In 1949, Larry Doby recommended 3 players he knew in the Negro Leagues. He sent scouts to check them out, but the feedback and reports weren't good. Thus, he didn't sign any of the players. The 3 players were Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, and Willie Mays. Baseball history would have been different had he signed any of the 3. After an unsuccessful attempt to establish a new team in California, which later became the Angels, he left baseball. He embarked on a different career, becoming a successful investment banker. In 1970, Greenberg had a role in one of the most important events in baseball history. Curt Flood challenged the reserve clause, and Greenberg was again among the few former players and executives to support this publicly. He also testified on his behalf. In 1956, he was elected to the Hall, incredibly, on his 8th year on the ballot. He was the first Jewish player to enter the Hall. Greenberg died on September 4, 1986, in Beverly Hills, California. Thank you for watching. How would you compare Greenberg to the other great first basemen of the era, Fox and Gehrig? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing to see more baseball content.